Welcome back to Polygon Academy, everybody. My name is Tim, and this is part 2 of the Art Director Q&A session with Lincoln Hughes. Today we're answering your guys' questions from Twitter and YouTube on should you have tutorial content in your portfolio when applying to studios, some tips for indie studio startups on topics such as maybe how to get funding, how to find internships for students looking to break into the industry. We also cover, does age matter when trying to get into the game industry? We also touch on some key qualities besides the portfolio that we look for when we're looking to hire a student or junior artist. And finally, me and Lincoln go over some career-defining moments that should hopefully give you guys a little bit more perspective, and there's probably some lessons in there to be had that you can apply to your own journey as an artist. Before we get started, don't forget to smash and destroy that like button. Lincoln's time is really valuable, and I really appreciate him sitting down to go over your guys' questions with me. Don't be afraid to leave some questions or comments below. I'm going to try and get Lincoln to dive into the comments section and interact directly with you guys as well. Finally, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell turned on. I really want to get Lincoln back for a future episode. We still got a bit of whiskey left in that bottle, and I know you guys have a lot more questions that we can go deep on. So let's just crack right into part 2 of this Q&A session. I know you guys are going to get a lot of value out of it. All right, so we got a portfolio question here from Mr. Brian Pitt. Actually, I think he asked a question in one of the previous videos too. So he's getting a double dose today. Hey guys, what do you think of using standard assets in your portfolios? Things like substance bricks, sci-fi guns, ZBrush aliens are everywhere on ArtStation, but they're also popular because many games feature them. Good to include or best to avoid? What about tutorials?
I think like the bricks probably, probably a niche.
I mean, I think everyone
I've made that mistake before.
Yeah, I've done it too. Like I had like a barrel in my portfolio.
Yeah,
I think
it happens, right?
As you're developing your skill set, a lot of the thing is like, yeah, you said tutorials as well in your portfolio. I think everybody will go on YouTube and search for substance designer tutorial and do the metal corrugated tutorial. So that's almost like the baseline, right? Like you always want to be above the baseline. Like I always said, if your competition in your class is doing the bare minimum, if you're doing way more than that and actually attempting to hit the quality of game industry, rather than looking at your fellow students. So I think, a lot of portfolios, they have the sloppy brick, which it can look awesome.
80
or the
billion brick textures.
80 billion brick textures.
Everywhere.
Or the terracotta like Italian tiles.
I did that one.
I did that one too.
It was a good tutorial.
It is a good tutorial. So I think, if that's where your skill's at and you just did it and you're proud of it, throw it up on ArtStation 100%. But as your skills, the thing is, the best artists, it's not like monkey see, monkey do. And this is actually a lesson I got in high school is like, you can follow the chess set tutorial in 3ds Max, or you can take those skills of like, say, here's how you lay the spline and actually make something different with it. So, it's great to do the tutorial and have like that basic, the brick tutorial, the mailbox, the garbage can, the M16, AK-47. Like there's a lot of people that like they'll do the tutorial, put it in their portfolio, but you're not going to stand out. Like I think it's great if you're passionate about it to do do those things. Like don't feel bad about it.
Like force yourself to actually like learn them.
Like a lot of those hallway. Everyone does one.
Yeah, like a lot of those, and we're not saying like don't do a sci-fi hallway. Like do it. Yeah. If you can make like an awesome, exceptional sci-fi hallway, like people, there's no rules. It's not like the barrel. Don't do an amazing barrel. Like if you can make a barrel that will make our head spin, we will drink beer from that barrel. Like it won't even matter. Like it's just like it's exactly what Tim just said. Like make something that stands out, blow our fucking heads off. Make something that's like amazing. That's all we care about.
Yeah, like I think a lot of tutorials, the subject matter is something you see all the time, so it's harder to cut through the noise. I think there's been like AK-47s on ArtStation that I've seen that I've like instantly put in like my inspiration collections because the texture work is so good, the materials are amazing.
Totally. But
the quality was so high that it cut through the noise. But I think it's easier to cut through the noise if it's something that people haven't seen a million of. So like think of like, I think that's part of why BioShock was so successful, is it was something that people hadn't seen a million times before. Like it was this cool underwater city that like no games had done that before.
Yeah, and
so
Art Deco,
it cut through the noise like instantly.
Such
people
a
like,
unique
what is this?
style.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
So the further you can get away from like the commonplace things, I think the easier time you have of like grabbing people's attention. But again, really amazing quality work will cut through the noise and grab people's attention anyway.
I also think like huge point here. You know, if you're applying to say Ubisoft, you know, you do like a stylized barrel, probably not the best choice of prop to do. Like it's probably way better to actually like make something that fits into the art style of the games that they're actually currently making.
Yeah, relevant. I've said this before, right?
Yeah,
relevance is key.
It's relevance is like huge, and like and I'm, you know, like a lot of juniors, they like to go kind of in this unique direction because they're trying to stick out, and you know sometimes that might not work out. Like it might be better if you know you kind of look at all of the games that you really enjoy working on, and if you know if you like you know, say Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, you know, any of like those kind of semi-photoreal style games, make a portfolio that's semi-real.
That fits in.
Yeah, that fits in. Apply with that. It's like, and you know,
pivot.
like also like cater like your odds too, right? If the city that you're living in has like 5 massive game studios and they're all photoreal, but you're like, you know, making this stylized portfolio that there's like, you know, 1 mobile game studio in the entire city for, maybe you need to rethink the way that you're actually making your portfolio and cater it more to the game studios that actually exist in your city.
All right. So this next question comes from Leo Dunbar on Twitter. Leo asks, in general, what is the best advice for a starting indie company? Are there any tips you would give for a good take off in terms of development? I get you're more of a freelance contract worker, but as a man in the industry, I'll still appreciate the opinion. Thanks. Both of us are more in-house artists, so like we actually don't do a lot of contract or freelance. We kind of work in general for the course of our career. We've worked at studios, and we've also worked from small and large studios. So we should hopefully be able to give you some context on this. If you were starting an indie dev studio, what would your advice be?
Hire the right people. Like, I don't know, like try to find like the cheapest but smartest people that will possibly be able to help you with all of the decision making, and you know anybody especially of like technical expertise that will be able to like really help you lay out the groundwork of like, you know, optimization, performance, like all of these things, like what platform are you releasing on? What are the technical specifications of that specific platform? Yeah, I think like a big part of it is the technical side, like right away.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Yeah, okay. To kind of like even take a further step back, I would say if you're going indie, I would use the KISS method, like keep it simple, stupid. Like keep your scope as restrained as possible. Like I think a good example would be like if you look at Super Meat Boy, the mechanics they get more complex over time, but like the overall complexity of the game is fairly simple.
That's
because
jumping mechanics.
Exactly,
you know?
Like a jumping 2D game.
Yeah.
They didn't go crazy in scope, and it was like 2 people making that game. Because I think a lot of one of the biggest mistake inexperienced people that want to go indie, like maybe they're like, I haven't even worked in the industry. I'm gonna go indie and make my own game. Here's my game design document, and it's like we're making the next World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
With 5 people, or like we're making an open world game.
Amazingly epic idea that's gonna blow the socks off of like Will Wright and like whoever. You know, in
exactly.
The game industry,
they don't have the context of just what it takes to make even like the simplest of games.
Yeah.
So I would say if it's your first game project that you're working on, definitely keep it like super simple, because even really simple games can be fun and super interesting. But I think a lot of people confuse indie development and like AAA budgets. Like they just have if you've never worked in games, you don't have the context for budgets and what goes into making a game. So I would start with something extremely simple. Like it's easy to be like, we're gonna make the next Fortnite, we're gonna make the next PUBG with like 3 people, and it's just gonna lead to crazy feature creep and like things that never get done. So I would say make like extremely simple games, and again, get more complex as you make your next game and your next game. But like start with like, if you've never even made Pong, like make Pong first, and start establishing your team by like.
I don't know if they're gonna make any money if they make Pong, Tim.
But that's the thing. Everyone wants to make money, but like if you've never made games before, you're probably not going to make any money anyways.
Yeah.
So focus on mastering the skills that you can actually make something of quality, and then you at least have a hope of making money.
Yeah.
And you're only going to get to quality by like reducing your scope to like the funnest of mechanics.
Yeah.
Right?
Like seriously, like a lot of like indie studios, they have like, you know, 2 or 3 like main pillars of like the gameplay.
Like
right?
that cube jumping game that you played like for hours at my place one time.
Oh yeah,
it was a cube hopping.
It's like
spikes.
an iPhone game where you're like hopping on a cube. Like it's like something that's as simple as that feels like amazing.
And if
that's
and if you can charge 99 cents for it and make money,
it has like one fundamental purpose in the game, and that one specific thing. Maybe it's like a little bit complex. Maybe it's fun, but
it's like timing and jumping.
Yeah, that one thing is just created in such a way that it
starts simple and it gets more complex.
You know,
exactly. Yeah. So keep it super simple. That would be my biggest advice for indie development is keep it simpler than you would imagine that you would want to make it, and then the chances of it actually being good and being successful are going to be a lot higher.
Yeah.
Like drastically reduce your scope. Like I think that even in AAA, that's a big problem. Is like at the start of pre-production games, we're gonna have this crazy, AI system and stuff like that. By the end of production, they've like half the scope of the game, and that's just something that happens naturally in game development.
Yeah.
So cut early and cut fast.
Yeah,
and just like reduce it down to the fun.
Even at like those big AAA game studios, they'll spend like a year like developing with like 10 programmers.
10 programmers, 5 tech artists.
Yeah, like developing like this one thing that's like going to optimize performance or like make better lighting or something,
Yeah.
And like, we spent a year on development on that. All right, well, it's gone. So like listen to your developers. Like, if you're like the head of the studio, like these guys, like if you've hired correctly and they actually like know what they're talking about and they have the experience to back it up, like listen to them. Like they have like experience having those ideas just shit on and dumped out, and that's the way it is. So like be smart about it. Like really, really streamline, cut down. You got to cut the fat like immediately, I think as soon as possible.
Another big thing is like a lot of indie projects that I see popping up online, they tend to have this like everyone's going to be volunteer or like it's going to be revenue share, and that's a huge downfall usually. Like if you try and get professional level people to work for free, like it's just not going to fly. So by keeping your scope small and achievable, you have a more of a chance of actually attracting maybe people that are trying to develop their skills or want to work on something that they can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if you're like, we're making the next GTA, but we'll pay you when the game comes out, like there's no chance that like you're going to get professional artists working on that. So again, keep it super small, and ideally if you have like a couple little maybe like mobile games or something that you've created and actually released, you're going to have more of a hope of getting people, even if you are doing the revenue share model. But 99% of the time you're going to have to pay people, so that might mean finding investors, getting someone with a bit of business sense. It's a really complex equation. Like going indie is a lot more complex than you would actually think. A lot of people are like, let's just use Unreal, make a game, and the millions are coming on in.
It's easy. I have a good idea.
I have a good idea. The idea, if the idea person is the business person, that's usually a huge red flag.
Yeah,
to me.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
Like if it's like someone, I got this cool idea for this game, and I
have no experience making games, but I have good ideas,
and I'm the head of the studio.
Okay, I'm done.
It's like, I'm out.
No, there's no way.
1,000% I'm out. So I would say by keeping your team small, you're probably gonna have to pay people, and so that would mean either saving up some of your own money, working a day job, and investing that money into the game as an investment, because that's what a business is usually, like an investment of capital, or maybe 2-3 of your friends, maybe you're all students or something like that. But being like the idea guy and the studio head at the same time, not a good idea. Yeah. All right. So someone here has a name I have no hope in hell of pronouncing. So you'll see it up on the screen. But they say, do game studios hire students to do their internships?
Yeah, they do.
100%.
Yeah.
It depends on the studio and the size.
Yeah.
But
like, and you know, some of the studios that you actually think do internships, sometimes they don't. Some of the studios that you don't think do internships, sometimes they do.
They might have an in under the table.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you look at one of my last videos, there's a section on networking. That's like one of the benefits of building your social circle and your network within the game industry, because you'll probably have access to opportunities that maybe other students don't have. Maybe they're not posted on the website, but a lot of times internships are straight up posted on company websites. There's like an intern position, or you can reach out to an artist on ArtStation that works at a studio that you're interested in. Say, hey, do you guys do internships? 99% of the time, the answer is probably going to be no, because I mean, the ratio, maybe not 99% of the time, but like what?
Probably less.
Yeah, 75%. 75% of the time, the studio's probably like, no, we don't do internships.
A big studio will usually do internships, and some of like the bigger indie studios will usually do internships.
Yeah, and I've seen interns that are producing AAA quality work with no problem.
Totally.
And then they roll into like a studio job right after that, because they've already plugged into the studio's pipeline. They have experience working with the team, like they're socially integrated into the studio, so it's almost a no-brainer to hire them because they've already had their training done for
and they fit well with the team. You know, like they've proven themselves. They're already like socially accepted into the hierarchy of the studio. Like yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but long story short, studios, they definitely hire interns.
Yeah,
it's just on you to dig deeper. Yeah. All right, so this next question comes from Leaf Grabert, or Grabert. I'm butchering your name, sorry. And Leaf or Life. I'm just going to stop attempting at this point. Is there a thing where age matters in terms of getting hired as a junior environment artist, or I guess any artist, kind of in general? I'm 28 now, and because of my girlfriend, I'm stuck, happily so, in a city where there are no real opportunities for me. Will most likely move when she is done with her PhD, but kind of worried the studios will question my junior application when I'm already 30. Thanks for doing this. Cheers, Leaf. I think I answered. You saw me answering a question like this earlier today. Age is irrelevant. That's my opinion. 100%. Like, unless you're old and decrepit, like walking 80, with a walker. Yeah,
if 80 you're years like old. 80 years old and you're like Mr. House from like Fallout New Vegas, a single head in like a jar,
you're good.
Like you're good.
Like
don't worry.
I've worked with people in the past that are in their 20s and people that are in their 50s across a wide range, especially at a big studio like Ubisoft. There's there's people that are industry vets and people that are entering the industry. Maybe they did a pivot and changed career direction, like had the typical midlife crisis, bought the cherry red Miata, had the gold chain going, and wanted to go to art school. But no, they wanted to pivot because they were unhappy being an accountant. 1,000%, it doesn't matter. Like
I actually, to be honest, I think like your age, like being around 30, is actually beneficial to you.
Yeah, you're probably more mature.
Yeah,
you're probably more open to feedback.
like the 18 and 19-year-olds that get into a game studio, like
they think they're the shit.
Well,
they can.
Yeah, there's that for sure. But like, it's also like they're just young. Like they haven't like socially like matured enough like to fit in.
I know like for me, when I was in my 20s, I was awkward. Yeah, I was super awkward and weird, and like I was a little developed prick as a human being. You still are. But no, like you develop as a human being. So I mean, being in your 30s, you're still a baby anyways. Like like I don't know. I think there's people that transition later in life to doing a different career, or maybe they find their passion. Like if someone had been just living the beach bum backpack lifestyle, I think that they would need a cooler person to hang out with, to be honest. Like they're probably like super social and outgoing.
Yeah, like if you're like mature and you have like an awesome portfolio and like you feel like socially confident enough, you're bound to just excel.
1,000%. I mean, and nowadays, like when I look at ArtStation, a lot of people, they don't have a picture of their face as their profile picture anyways. For like half the people, they have like a logo or some, their online persona or whatever. It's like it's time. But to be honest, like when I look at ArtStation, the first thing I look at is people's art, and it's a lot of times I have no even context of their age, their race, their sexual orientation, like if they're male, female, whatever. Like I just look at their art. I'm like, is this person a badass artist? Yeah. Cool. All right. And then it doesn't matter anything else. I'm like,
Yeah,
can
like-
they do the job that we're looking to hire them for?
Yeah, and like that kind of cuts to it. Is like
If dolphins could do dope art, I would hire a dolphin.
yeah, but like,
like,
what
full-time.
what is the hiring process?
Yeah.
Like what happens is somebody refers the portfolio, ArtStation link, whatever, to the art director, assistant art director, lead artist,
Producer.
or one of the senior artists, whoever, right? Somebody gets it, they refer it up the chain because they feel like, oh, the portfolio is awesome. It goes up the chain, somebody looks at it, they think, oh, okay, this guy's going to be awesome, this girl's going to be amazing, all right, let's bring it to HR looks at it, all right, interview goes through HR. HR talks with them 30 minutes, goes through all the usual questions, and then it goes to
Basically, we have a need, can this person fill that need and produce the work that we require?
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people do have those hang-ups, like, oh, I'm older, or maybe I'm too young. I've seen people be like, oh man, it's so intimidating being like with like older people. But I think once you get into a professional work environment, it's kind of like, when you're in high school, if you're dating someone that's like 2 years or like within a year, like 2 years older than you, it's, oh my God, it's like an older person. But like as soon as you like leave like high school,
as soon as you're like 2 years older,
you might be like 20
matter.
dating a 30-year-old. It doesn't even matter, right?
Yeah.
Like it just becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
So I would look at it like that. Is age is just a number. I've worked with people in their 30s that are super immature and they're awesome to hang out with, and I've worked with people that are in their 20s and really mature, and they can do a really good job. So I wouldn't get hung up on those details. I would just 1,000% focus on producing badass art that's going to get people's attention, and that's going to be your biggest win. And you mentioned that it's going to take you a couple years because you're kind of like stuck where you are. That's great. Take those couple years to really develop yourself as an artist and just focus on that and have fun and enjoy it. And chances are that's going to make you a really well-rounded person that people are going to want to work with regardless of your age. And 30 is you're still a baby. Like,
man, you're at the perfect age. Like, don't worry, it's the best age ever. I'm 33.
Yeah, I'm 30.
Those last
31.
3 years, Italia.
There we go. So this next question actually kind of ties back into the question about an indie studio in the past. What is your advice on finding funding for the first game a very small studio is making? I would say fund it yourself. If you're not going to invest your own money into a project that you believe in, why would you expect other people to give you money to develop a game that might succeed? Like, you're going to have something. Either way, you're going to have like a prototype or something to show to people to get money. And that's probably going to require at least hiring, like if you're an artist, hiring a programmer to get you to that very basic stage. So, I mean, it's going to take some form of probably personal investment. That can be your time. It can be your capital. But coming up with like the idea and trying to get like $1 million right off the bat is just so unrealistic these days.
It's super
because
unrealistic.
anyone that's like, say, left EA to form their own studio, they'll probably work off of their own cash reserves for a while with like a group of friends that all quit their jobs at the same time. They don't take any money. They're not like looking to pay themselves for the first probably 2 years. So like that's a big reality.
Yeah, like you got to think like, okay, I'm starting up a new studio. Okay, I have to compete with
it's a huge risk.
I have to compete with like people that have like been in the game industry for like 25 years and left to form their own studio, and they're doing the exact same thing as you. They have all the connections, they have financial resources, they have all this, all that. So you're competing with these people. So like
the question is, why would I give you money?
Yeah, but like why would you compete with them? Figure out a way to not compete with them. Figure out a way to like make something that's smaller, that's way more streamlined, that's quick, that's easy for the average person to pick up and just have fun doing something simple. That's like, if you want to be like ultimate, oh, it's me with like one other person making a game, that's a way to do it.
So executing on your ideas is like the most important thing, and don't expect people to give you money for something that's just like a piece of paper. And that's like probably one of the biggest reality slaps that people will have is like, I'm going to make the next World of Warcraft. And it's like, but you haven't done anything in the past, and you have like the same design document as every other student team out there. So, I mean, for me, I would say get some experience, get a super small team, keep your idea small, and execute on it really well, get something together that you can actually show people can get their hands on and play that's fun, then you will have a hope of getting funding versus being like, here's a PowerPoint presentation on the next Mario clone.
Yeah.
Because no one, to be honest, is going to care because they haven't seen any follow through and you don't have that track record. So taking your ideas and actually taking action on them versus being like the idea guy or I'm the studio head and we're looking for funding because we have a cool idea. It's like everyone has cool ideas, but 99% of people don't actually take action on them. Yeah. So, all right. So this next question comes from Sarah Summers. Sarah says, what kinds of personalities or qualities do you look for when hiring new team members, particularly in junior artists?
I would say, obviously like a good portfolio. That's like
that's like the minimum.
Number one that gets you like in the door.
Yeah, it's 80% of the equation.
Yeah, you get into the interview, and the interview it basically decides if you're nice.
Well, yeah, your personality.
Are you good? Are you like are you gonna fit in with the team? Are you socially well adjusted? Are you capable of like interacting with like a group of 50 people in a positive manner?
Are you open to feedback? I've had interviews where they've given me feedback on my portfolio in the interview, and probably how receptive I was to that probably directly impacted if I got the job or not.
It was a test.
Exactly. But yeah, it's usually in an interview, you've already proven that you're artistically capable and gotten through the door. Yeah. There's no question about your art skills usually. An interview will be more like to kind of gauge your personality and also maybe to just, there'll be probably a few questions about your art. Like for me, it's like 10% of the questions are usually pertaining to my art and technical abilities.
Do you know what? On second thought, on second thought, I think we're actually thinking of this from like a senior perspective. Like a junior, they get in the interview, like a portfolio. It demonstrates, okay, you can make nice art, but like it doesn't necessarily mean, you can make something amazing that's like technically proficient. So yeah, do you know what? You might get like a barrage of questions that
Have you used trim sheets?
Yeah,
have you used tiling
that
textures?
ensures that like how to actually like proficiently make a mesh that will work in a video game. So I think it's like, you might have to brush up on that stuff, and you might have to know your shit basically. But
that also actually that's a good point, because I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I would have for like going into an interview as a junior is don't throw in a lot of techno babble for the sake of it. Because I think a lot of juniors, they go into an interview or like a position trying to like I have to really prove myself.
Yeah,
so
they're like overachieving.
Don't be the king of the nerds. Like
their novel size explanation,
hyper alpha mainframe terminal technique. It's like no, just like okay, do you know about trim sheets and tiling textures? Yeah, I use them to do this. Like that's gonna be fine. It's not like, well, I find using like a 24-bit texture. Well, like that's only gonna almost make you like
kind of weird.
Yeah, that sounds like maybe a little bit brutal, but like
just I don't know,
be yourself.
Yeah, be yourself,
but don't feel the need to overly prove yourself. So I mean, and that's part of the interview process. Is like if someone goes in there and it's like, well, I find these certain types of normal maps and these super technical terms like left and right. It's like, what is this person really compensating for? Yeah. Maybe like they're trying to like. It's like you see like a lot of like even like at E3 and stuff, you see a lot of techno babble thrown in for like the sake of marketing. Yeah. It's like, how are you marketing yourself? It's like, well, this 15-bit tessellation technology, and it's like, man, I don't care about that. Like, I just want to know your personality. Do you know about composition, like form, and like the basics of art? Yeah. How did you go about doing your work? So I mean, like, don't go in there trying to like super prove yourself. Just talk about what you feel comfortable with, and definitely, if you don't know the answer to something, just be like, oh, I don't know. I've never actually done that before. Because I would rather hire someone that can readily admit they don't know something.
Oh, totally.
That has the humility and like the not scrambling on their feet, trying to cover up their flaws. Like,
I mean, literally done that in an interview
me
where
too.
like,
And it's like,
where
they
like
know.
you lie about something.
They know.
Or like say not like blatantly lie, but like, oh yeah, I know this. You know,
And you
like
stretch
I'm
it,
amazing
you try
at
and,
this.
like, gloss over it.
Yeah, and you kind of gloss over it, and like, you know, these guys, they're like, they've been doing this stuff for years.
Yeah, so
they'll
know right
instantly
off the bat.
gonna know, like right away.
For sure.
Like don't like, just be honest.
It's
You know, be
1,000%
like,
okay to say that I don't know. I've never done that before.
Yeah.
It shows that you're open to, and you're open-minded, and you have the humility to be like, I don't know everything. Man, even as a senior, like doing this for 12 years, I'll go into the interview and be like, hey, what's this specific lighting technique, or have you done this before? Nope, never worked with that in the pipeline.
Yeah,
but
photogrammetry.
Yeah,
literally.
never
That's
done
like the latest one in one of my interviews.
Yeah, I've never used it.
Have you ever used photogrammetry before? I'm like, no, I've
No,
never.
but
I've
be
never used
open
it.
to learning.
Like, yeah, but
So-
like I'd be stoked about learning it. It's like this amazing technique that
Yeah.
I would be super happy to learn about.
So,
no, you know,
in terms of your personality, that's really what the interview is there to gauge. Is like,
Yeah.
are you open to feedback? Are you open-minded? Are you somewhat socially adjusted and can hopefully work in a team environment? And those are like the more of the soft, again, like kind of like with your transition from level artist to art director, is like, are your soft skills in somewhat in order?
Yeah, exactly.
Because like you might be the best artist in the world, but like if you're an asshole or a dick and someone that doesn't, isn't going to function well with the team, that's almost counterintuitive. And that's really what the interview is there to sniff out. So, I mean, that also comes down to also, networking, going to like GDC, E3, any like events around CG, just local community events that you're going to kind of integrate and, be a little bit more social, right? Like that's only going to benefit you. Because I mean, it is very easy to get stuck in the parents' basement. Like for me, when I was starting in the parents' basement, working headphones on,
in the baby shop,
in the baby store, working in the 3D on the side. And my social skills probably weren't up to super like a good level of quality. And like even my friends afterwards, like years down the road, they were talking about, oh yeah, who's this sweaty, nervous guy in this interview? And like I managed to squeak it through. But that's the whole purpose of the interview, is to gauge your personality and how well you'll fit with the team itself.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
To bring it back to her question, like qualities that you look for, like I'd say willingness to learn, humility, artistic ability, obviously. I mean, but that's covered by before even getting into the interview.
Yeah.
But just generally like a passion for games.
Yeah.
You got to be passionate about what you're working on. You should be able to articulate why you want to get into the game industry, why you want to do what you're doing.
You should be able to articulate like why you want to work at that specific studio too.
Yeah.
And like during the interview process, when they ask you, oh well, why do you want to work, or do you have any specific questions about the studio? That's the point where you should be thinking, okay, well, I don't know, like, when is the release date? Like, what types of benefits do I get?
What's your crunch policy?
What's the crunch policy? Am I going to be working myself to death? Like, how many people am I going to be working with? Who's my lead? Like, there's all these questions. Those are just like off the top of my head. There's probably like 50 more. And the HR person is actually going to think that it's odd if you don't ask anything when she asks you if you have questions.
Yeah.
So you definitely need to
sure.
formulate some before you have the interview.
Or even anything that just pops into your mind during the interview.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I think a lot of people are really scared of asking questions because they're like, I'm here to prove myself to these people. But literally, it's in the ideal situation, a studio job should be win-win, and it's like it should just be you interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you, because you want to find a good fit. Then you can have a long-term business relationship.
Yeah, like, and even if you're a junior,
exactly,
like,
you want to find somewhere where you're going to hit the ground running.
I know it's like it's tough. Like, you're a junior, you want to find any job. It doesn't matter. I just want to get something on my resume. At the same time, like, yeah,
if you hate your life after 6 months,
like,
you're done.
Yeah, like, you want to find something that's good. Okay, if it takes another like 3-6 months, whatever it is, and you have to work at McDonald's and bust your ass to do it,
and you get in a better spot,
do it.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Like, do it. Totally. Like whatever's actually gonna make you happier, So
that point is huge. Getting in somewhere where you're going to be happy for the long term, rather than like making the rush to get into a studio that like if you go to a studio interview and you have like the warning signs of like you walk around the studio and everyone looks miserable.
Yeah.
But you're like, I really want this. I need to get into the game industry. I'm so desperate for a job. I'll do anything. I'll work 80-hour weeks. eject. But no, like that does sound like a dire situation. I've never actually had that. I've heard stories of it. But I mean, 99% of the time, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be win-win. You're gonna be excited. You're gonna have a good time. But yeah, literally just go there, have a good time. Yeah. Be yourself. Because
try to like forget the fact that you're in an interview, basically.
Yeah,
like just go there and be like, okay, well, yeah. Do you know what? Like, I really like games. Like, I really like making them.
Man, that's the advice I had for networking. Is like, just think of it as like you're talking to a bunch of people that enjoy playing and making video games.
Yeah,
and approach it like that, and you can have so much more of an easier time than putting all the pressure on yourself of like I have to get the job. It's like, no, like maybe I want the job, maybe I don't. That's cool, but I just want to go there, see how things are, and if it's a fit, it's a fit for both parties, because you don't want to be stuck somewhere where you're actually not fitting in with the culture. Like if you're a super quiet person and the studio has this like brash party culture, maybe that's not the best place to go work because you're gonna feel uncomfortable. Or vice versa, if you're a really outgoing person, like you love to party, and it's like a really quiet professional studio there, they're just like, no, we're here to make games, and like we don't go out and we don't go to the bar after work. Every studio has its own kind of culture, so you can kind of gauge that when you're there on an interview, right?
Yeah, you can gauge it. You're not gonna have like
until you're
usually a definitive answer about like what the exact culture of the studio is before you actually work there. Unless it's like a massive studio, like, you know, Ubisoft, EA, you might be able to find like, you know, Glassdoor.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Glassdoor is good. I
that like actually like discusses, okay, well, this is what the vibe of the studio is. This is the salary. This is how the culture happens within it.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, yeah, if you're junior trying to get in, yeah, there's going to be some questions, but just
we really got deep on this. This is probably one of the deepest questions we went on.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, so this final question comes from James Ward. He says, what's that one definitive moment that stands out to you in your career as an artist? That one pivotal moment where you're like, holy shit, I'm actually doing this.
Okay.
This requires more whiskey.
Well, I think like for me, you know, I've been in the game industry for like 14 years, and like the first like 2-3 years of that, I was a environment / concept artist, and I basically stopped doing concept art for like 10 years, and then within the last year and a half, something like that, I started getting back into it. I got a job at Sin Studio. It's like a concept art school.
You're teaching.
Yeah, I was teaching art, teaching concept art, and it was just like basically revolutionary for my skills. You know, being a teacher, you have to like know everything. So I just drilled myself basically for like 8 months to learn so much and basically evolve as an artist. And by the time I was done, I put out one of the best art pieces that I've done in my life.
And I know the exact one. We'll pop it down in the description. You can and you guys can see it. But yeah, like that one really blew up, eh? Like it was like what, District 13 or
15?
I don't know.
I got like District 17.
It's like some
13,
cyberpunk,
whatever.
really cool one.
Yeah.
But yeah, you really hammered that one, and I think you had that moment of like, oh man, this is like I've leveled up.
Yeah, no,
I've made it.
Like
I've made it. I can function as a concept artist.
No, it was. Do you know what? Like I don't actually like doing concept art as an artist. Like I like doing my own thing. Okay, well, like what do I want to do? Okay, I'm gonna do that. You know. I don't like having an art director tell me, oh, no, you can't have clouds in the sky. It has to be that sky.
Yeah,
you know?
you're an art director now, so that solves that problem. Assistant art director, so.
But, like, I think, like, it was just kind of one of those moments where, like, I made it, and I got, like, halfway through, and I was like, oh, like, how can I do this? I got feedback from like a couple like super well-renowned artists at like Warner Brothers. This guy helped me. I mean, I don't know. When I did it, I was just like, holy shit. Like, wow.
This
like,
is a banger. This is gonna do well.
But it was seriously, it was just like, you know how like you're working on something and you're like, wow, like this is good. It was like that times 10. When by the time I was finished, I didn't even like know how to interpret it, and I was kind of like, you know, for the next like 6 months, I was like, I don't know if I can make something as good as that, you know. like it's kind of weird when like you take your own art and start using it as reference to do other paintings with, you know. Like
you're trying to like recapture that.
That moment,
like right.
I wanted to recapture that, and
it kind of goes with that whole like, I'm good, I suck, I'm good, I suck.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like, it's like a mountain peak, but then you see, like, everyone always talks about this, then you see the next mountain, and it's even higher, right? Like, you climb K2, and then you see Everest, and you're like, well, I got to get there now, but that is going to mean, like, going down to the lowest of lows again of, like, how do I recapture that?
I think, like part of the thing that actually kind of wowed me a little bit was the insecurity of feeling like, oh, I've never done this before. I don't know. Like,
you're outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. I was so outside of my comfort zone that like I just did something and it really clicked, right? And that was one of those like wow moments. And but I don't know if I'm like ever gonna be able to like find that moment again.
1,000% you will, for sure.
But
no, I think one of the big things to kind of jump in here is like, you would have never got to that moment if you hadn't been taking action and just consistently producing art. And like, not all of them are going to be bangers. Like, not all of them are like, wow, this is going to be trending on ArtStation. This is going to blow up on Instagram. But like, you don't even know until you get started. And I think that's a lot of people's problems is like, they're so afraid of it not being like this pristine, dope thing that they almost are paralyzed, like analysis paralysis. So like, well, I don't know if it's going to be super amazing, so I'm not even going to get started. I'm just going to think about it.
Do you know what? Like, I think, like, while I was actually working on that piece, I was like, I wasn't thinking about any of that shit, like, at all. Like, I wasn't thinking, oh, is this going to trend on ArtStation? Is this going to do well? Are other artists going to enjoy this? Like, I just was not thinking of that. I was mainly just, like, caught up in the moment.
The process.
Exactly. Like, Blade Runner
2049.
Yeah, 2049 had just come out. I like watched it. I was blown away by it. I was looking at all of the art, all of the palettes, all of the compositions. I was just blown away by it, and you know, I was so inspired that like it basically just motivated me to create this whole thing, and it made me feel really, really good. And
so that's cool. Like but that's like what, 12, 13 years into your career, you had like your oh shit moment. For me, it was actually on the flip. It was like when I got my first job offer.
Yeah,
that was like my oh shit moment, because like for so long
which company?
Big Sandwich, the first one we worked for. So that was actually where I met Lincoln, is at Big Sandwich Games. It was our first game studio job. But like, and a lot of you guys have heard my story before with the art test and all that stuff. But like, that was, for me, that was like the really wow moment of like, wow, I can actually do this and get paid to make game art. And that's so crazy to me. And that was like a really validating moment. Because I had been, working in my parents' basement, building my portfolio for like 5 years, right?
Working in the baby store.
And working in the baby store, like, and hustling on my art on the side. But for me, that was a really big wow moment. And that was at the start of my career. And I mean, there's been multiple times throughout my career, actually, where it's like, I don't think there is like one wow moment. It's like, if you get into the process of doing art and just do things consistently, there'll be multiple wow moments. Like, when I got my first job, when I went from like a junior to a mid-range position, when I changed companies and went to my first senior position, there's all these different wow moments.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's part of the thing, is like, kind of like what you were talking about. If you enjoy the process, then these things just happen over time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, do you know what?
If you're waiting for it to happen,
it's not going to
happen.
Like, overthink it.
Yeah.
Just like, seriously, do you know what? Like, if you're like a true artist and like, you just want to make awesome things, like all of these different experiences are like bound to happen for you, you know? So like,
yeah, but I think the biggest thing is just get started.
Yeah.
I think that's like, probably the best way to end this podcast for especially a lot of students and juniors watching is like, just get started, learn to love the process, and have patience for the long game, because that's really what it is. Like, I think both of us were saying, like 12 years, 13, 14 years for your career. It's a long game. And like before the 12 years in the industry, it was 6 years of working in my parents' basement to get ready to get into the industry.
In the baby store.
And he's never gonna let me live this down. And working in a baby, like it's all those little moments that add up to this big, like, wow, I'm in the industry. And then it's like, that's just the beginning. And if I didn't have the patience to get there, if you're looking to get into the industry, just get started, because you can't predict when that stuff's gonna happen to you.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. It's like everyone thinks it's like, now I've made it, now I can, sit back, or now like one day things are gonna be really cool. But you're not gonna get there if you don't actually take action.
Yeah, just like force yourself to constantly be in a situation where you're learning something, or learning a new program, learning a new soft skill, being in a position of, wow, okay, I'm making myself a better human being. There you go.
There you go. That's how we're gonna end it. Just keep working on yourself and have fun while you're doing it. That's the biggest, most important thing is enjoy the process and enjoy the journey. So there you guys have it. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed that Q&A session with Lincoln Hughes. I know I had a really good time. It was a very last minute thing, so I know we missed a lot of your guys' questions, so we will hopefully be able to get Lincoln back for another episode in the future. Beg him down in the comments below, and I'm sure he'll come back and we'll get even deeper into that bottle of whiskey and let the secrets flow. If you enjoyed the episode, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe, you know the whole spiel by now. And as always, thank you for watching. See you in the next video.